Dessa Rose, a historical novel written by Sherley and Williams in 1986, is a gripping slave narrative that revolves around the experiences of a fugitive slave. Divided into 3 sections, the book explores different stages of Dessa Rose's life and her relentless pursuit of freedom. The first section, titled The Darky, finds Dessa Rose confined in the basement of an Alabama sheriff's farm, bound by shackles and keeping silent. She has been arrested for her involvement in a slave revolt, where she and other chained slaves fought back against their captors, resulting in the death of 5 white men and the severe injury of a slave trader. However, due to her pregnancy, Dessa's life has been temporarily spared until she gives birth. During her time in captivity, Dessa is interviewed by Adam Nehemiah, a white journalist who is researching slave rebellions. Through their conversation, the brutal realities of Dessa's enslaved life come to light. She had been held in bondage on a plantation where she fell in love with Cain, a slave who worked as a gardener. Cain brought her happiness and eventually became the father of her unborn child. However, when Terrell Vaughn, the plantation's owner, destroyed Cain's cherished banjo, Cain retaliated, resulting in a fatal confrontation between him and Terrell. Enraged by this act, Dessa attacked Terrell, leading him to sell her to a slave trader named Wilson. It was while she was in Wilson's custody, as part of a coffle, a group of chained slaves, that the revolt took place. Amidst the chaos, Dessa managed to escape briefly, but she was recaptured and put on trial. Now, Dessa finds herself imprisoned, her beloved Cain dead, and her execution postponed only because of her pregnancy. However, hope emerges when 2 fellow slaves from the coffle, Harker and Nathan, stage a daring rescue mission, freeing Dessa once again. Meanwhile, Adam, feeling a deep sense of outrage, sees himself as an authority on slave behavior and cannot fathom being outsmarted. Determined to see Dessa apprehended and hanged, he vows to track her down. In the second section of the novel, titled The Wench, Dessa resides on a rural farm located in the remote regions of northern Alabama. She has given birth to her baby. The farm's owner, Ruth Sutton, known as Ms. Ruffle, openly provides refuge for fugitive slaves, masquerading as their owner. In reality, these individuals live on the premises and work for wages. When Ruth mentions that her recently deceased mammy loved her, Dessa becomes infuriated. From Dessa's perspective, it is inconceivable that a slave could genuinely love their master. The intensity of Dessa's anger and the strength of her argument cause Ruth to question the nature of her relationship with her mammy. She realizes that she doesn't even know her mammy's given name, which further reinforces Dessa's point. In an instant, Ruth's understanding of the world shatters, prompting her to reevaluate her connections with the fugitive slaves residing on her property, as well as her relationship with her late mammy. She begins to question their true motivations and emotions, as well as her own. The final section of the book, titled The Negress, sees Harker and Nathan devising a plan to gather enough money to fund the escape of the slaves on the farm. They attempt to convince Ruth, who is facing dire financial circumstances, and Dessa to participate in the scheme. The plan involves Ruth selling the fugitive slaves back into slavery, allowing them to escape and meet at a prearranged rendezvous point. From there, they would relocate to another area, where Ruth would once again sell them into slavery. They would repeat this process several times, accumulating a substantial sum of money. The profits generated from these sales would be divided, with half going to Ruth and the other half to the slaves after their final escape. Ruth and Dessa ultimately agree to the plan. As they travel from one county to another, with Dessa assuming the role of Ruth's personal maid, the 2 women grow closer. At one of their stops, Ruth finds herself on the verge of being raped by a drunken white man. This harrowing event becomes a turning point for Dessa, leading her to a moment of reckoning. In a sudden realization, Dessa understands that white women can also fall victim to the predatory actions of white men. When a drunken man threatens to assault Ruth, Dessa swiftly steps in to defend her, successfully preventing the rape. This shared triumph deepens the bond between the 2 women. The plan to accumulate money proves fruitful, although they face a close call when Adam Nehemiah encounters them and recognizes Dessa. He captures her and presents her to the local sheriff, accusing her of being a fugitive criminal. However, Ruth intervenes, causing Adam's accusation to crumble. Eventually, Dessa is released. Dessa, Ruth, Harker, Nathan, and 3 other former slaves embark on a journey toward the west. Along the way, Dessa fully embraces Ruth as a steadfast ally and dear friend. They reach Council Bluffs, Iowa, where they divide the earnings they acquired through their scheme. Ruth chooses to separate from the group, heading toward the northeast, with no intentions of returning to the south. The remaining members of the group disperse, heading to different destinations in the north and west. In the final chapters of the book, Dessa Rose finally achieves the freedom she has relentlessly pursued throughout her entire life. I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave a like if you did and be sure to subscribe. Thank you.